So today we're going to do a video on smoking meat, and specifically a simple method for smoking meat. If you go on the internet and you read how to smoke meat, or you watch other YouTube videos, they tell you that you can't buy your meat at the grocery store. You got to go to the butcher shop. Here's a recipe for the rub, and typically it has something in it that you don't have in your spice cabinet. Or they tell you that you have to put a brine on. Here's a recipe for the brine. It has to be done at a certain point. You have to wrap it at a certain point. Then you have to unwrap it. And then you have to do an injection. Here's a recipe for the injection. And by the way, you got to buy an injector because most people don't have one. And the fact of the matter is, not knocking all those things, if you do all those things on a scale of 1 to 10, you get a 15. It's phenomenal. But it's complicated. And so what we want to show you today is a very simple method. We've tried all those things, and again, they work, but we've narrowed it down to a very simple process that we want to share with you. So the fact of the matter is, 95% of the people that come to your house to eat your smoked meat have never had anything better than a 7 or an 8 in a restaurant. Because 95% of the restaurants, that's the best they can do. They're making this stuff in mass, doing the best they can. So what we're going to show you is how to do this on a scale of 1 to 10, a 10. A really good, this is a pork butt. The same principles apply for a brisket as they do for a pork butt. So let's go ahead and start the process here. This particular pork butt was bought at the grocery store. And we're probably going to do a little trimming. I have always been an advocate of leaving as much fat on there as you can. And over the years, I've decided maybe it's better to trim a little bit more. There's a really thick fat spot right here, and some of that needs to be trimmed out because if it's too thick, it doesn't break down very well. So we're going to trim some of that off. And most of the fat is actually on the other side, which will be up, so as it cooks, it will brine itself, and you don't have to go out and brine it. One of the more complicated aspects of doing this is the planning process, because it takes, according to some theories, roughly 2 hours for every pound of meat. And that's rough. The molecular structure of each piece of meat is different, and it could take anywhere from an hour to 2.5 hours. 2 is just a good average. So when you're planning it, this particular piece of meat is actually the biggest one I've ever done. I usually do 5 to 7 pounds. This particular one is 9 pounds. So basically I'm figuring on 18 hours to smoke this. It may take less time, may take more. What you want to do in your planning process is see to it that you're done well before when you really plan on eating it. So if you're going to eat this around 5 or 6 o'clock on a Saturday evening, you got to plan to be done maybe around noon or so. The fact of the matter is if you take this off the smoker and you wrap it in foil and you wrap it in a towel and you put it inside a cooler, you pull it out 4 or 5 hours later and unwrap it, it is still so hot on the inside that you can't pull it with your bare hands. So it's safe to be done well in advance to when you want to be done. If it happens to take 2 or 3 hours longer than you anticipated, then you still have time to serve it at 6 o'clock, even though it took a little bit longer. And you really want it to rest for about an hour anyway, so plan accordingly. And really, that's the toughest part of this process. So I am going to put this on the smoker on Saturday night, right before I go to bed. Let it smoke all night long, and then we will have either pulled pork for lunch on Sunday, or we'll have pulled pork for lunch on Sunday, or for dinner on Sunday evening. All right, so let's trim this thing up a little bit. We'll put the seasoning on it, get it wrapped up, kind of give you an idea how that process works. I highly recommend wearing gloves because this is messy, and it is, we're about to get into some other seasonings and stuff, and that really is messy. Like I said before, I don't usually do a whole lot of trimming. We're going to cut some stuff like this right here off. We've got a bona fide vein right here that we want to try to cut off. You'll find that there are some places on here where the meat is actually not fat. It's more of a tendon, or more muscular, if you will. And so you kind of want to trim that stuff off because it doesn't taste very good once it's smoked. So we'll trim a little bit of that off. Kind of feel around, see if you can tell if it's really thick. Like I mentioned before, this spot right here is really thick. So we'll cut a little bit of that off, not a whole lot. Just kind of poke it, see how thick it feels. That all seems pretty good. Like I said, the real bulk of the fat is over here on the other side. This is the spot that we're going to leave up, and as it melts down into the meat. It's not actually too bad. A little thick right here. We'll thin that out some. That's probably about all we'll do. So here's the other thing that is I have found recently to be a very crucial part of this process and this seasoning. Something that I had seen other people do, never done it myself. One day I got a wild hair, I'll try it, see how it does. And really it took my pulled pork from a 9 to a 10. And believe it or not, it's something as simple as mustard. I just got this mustard bottle, very nasty with my hands, but get some mustard all over it. And I don't understand why it works or how it works, but I know that it does work because I did it. I got a really good pork butt out of the deal. Then the next time I did it, I got a really good pork butt out of the deal. The next time I thought, I've dialed in on something, maybe mustard's not the trick. Didn't do the mustard, wasn't as good. So, mustard is extremely important. I don't know if there's some way it breaks it down or if it has to do with the way that it helps to hold the seasoning on while it's cooking. I don't know, but I just know that it works and I highly, highly recommend it. So let's get some of this all over it, and then we will add some seasoning. One of the more complicated parts of this thing oftentimes is making the rub. I went to the store and bought rub. This is McCormick's Grill Mates. This is sweet and smoky. That's the flavor I like. They have lots of other flavors. I recommend you try them. Make something that you like better than sweet and smoky. There are other people out there that sell it. Just buy it. It's the simplest thing to do. So put it on liberally. Put a lot of it on. Be sure you get it all along the sides as well. I'm going to rub all that in. And I started on this side because this is the way I'm going to set it on the grill. Now, I can wrap it like this. Take it straight out of the package, so to speak, out of the wrap, set it right up on the grill. All right. So that's the first process. We'll wrap this up, set it in the refrigerator. Tomorrow we'll get out, start all over again. So now we want to talk smokers for just a minute. We're talking simple. Once again, then the two simplest methods are an electric smoker, which looks like a small refrigerator, and then there is the pellet smoker, which is what I have, and I'll take you outside and show you that here in just a minute. So the advantages and disadvantages of each. Electric smoker is very consistent in the temperature. The way you get the smoke in is you feed some chips, so you put chips in a tray in the back of the smoker, and that's an advantage and a disadvantage. You have to keep those chips in there on a regular basis. You have to keep feeding it chips. So otherwise, great meat out of an electric smoker, very simple. Set the temperature, put it in there, keep chips in it. Turns out great. My dad's got one, swears by it. Pellet smoker. Advantage I see of that is I'm going to put something on there before I go to bed tonight or tomorrow night, and I am going to just leave it. Monitor the temperature. The chips or the pellets that are in the pot beside it will feed all throughout the night. I don't have to keep up with it. I am getting good smoke, so that's the one I prefer. The one that I have has the ability to sear the meat. There's a tray in there that you can slide back, the flame comes straight up, so you can sear a steak, you can cook steaks, hamburgers, whatever you want to. It can be used like a regular grill. With an electric smoker, you don't have that feature. Whatever you're cooking has to be smoked. So I'll take you outside and show you a little bit about the smoker that I use. Some of the advantages, disadvantages, and different models and features that some of the different models have that I know about. Okay, so here's my smoker. This is obviously a Pit Boss brand. Another brand that's very popular is the Traeger. Traeger, to be honest, probably made the whole concept of pellet smokers popular in the first place. One of the features that I like about this particular Pit Boss that made this my choice is this searing feature here. There's a tray that slides back and forth right here. So you slide this over, it's a full-on smoker. Slide this back, and the flame comes up through these grates right here, so you can sear meat, whatever, hamburgers, however you want to cook them. And basically, you're cooking on it like it's a grill. So, for the purpose of us, we're going to close this up. Kind of give you an idea how a pellet smoker works. There are pellets, and in the bottom of this box, there is an auger. Okay, and this auger feeds those pellets over into the inside of this box. And give you an idea a little bit about the features. You set your knob on whatever temperature you want it to be at. I set it on 350 because I was making steaks the other day, and this tells you what your temperature is set on. This tells you what the temperature of your actual inside of your grill is, which happens to be 40 degrees right now. It says the probe here is 42 degrees. That goes inside the meat, so that's how you keep track of your meat. There's a space in this particular model for a second probe if you wanted to keep an eye out for something else. Now, some people have accused pellet smokers of not having very much smoke. Not the case. When this thing gets fired up, it's fired up now, you'll get an idea of what the smoke is really like. And this, what's in here, is it's hardwood, and you get to pick your flavors. This particular one is hickory. You can also get apple, you can get cherry, whichever one. There's a little bit of a process to get it out and change flavors if you want to. I generally just stay with hickory. Remember, I'm trying to keep it simple. So that's it for the smoker. Next step will be putting some meat on it. Okay, time has arrived to put the meat on. We've got, if you look down here, we've got the smoker set on 225, temperature's up to 215. It'll fluctuate 20-30 degrees, telling us that this probe temperature right now is 51 degrees. Of course, that'll change once we stick it in there. I got 3 different thermometers out here, and you don't need 3 thermometers, you only need 1, but I wanted to show you the different options that are available. This is a simple Walmart thermometer. This one comes with a unit. This is a neat little deal that I got that goes to my phone and communicates what's going on with the grill or the meat actually. Alright, let's get this put on. So with this particular smoker, the fire is coming, and the smoke, majority of the heat, is coming up through the center right here. So I will put it on one end, heat circulates through here. Get the probe stuck in here. You got to be careful when you're sticking this in here that you absolutely do not stick it in the bone. I just touched the bone right there, so that's not a good spot for it. Let's see if we can find a spot back here. No bones there. Get this one stuck in. Oh yeah, that's a good spot right there. Okay, so see the temperature start to change there. I will likely not open this grill again until it is 100% ready. I have no reason. I'm not going to wrap it, I'm not going to brine it, I'm not going to inject it at any point, so I'm pretty much done opening that lid. Temperatures, depends on the texture of the meat where you want to pull it as far as temperature is concerned. 195 is a starting point. You get good pulled pork at 195. I like to wait until around a little over 200, 201, 202. That sounds very specific, but to me it's more fall off the bone tender once you add that 5 or 6 degrees, which doesn't seem like much. Here's the other thing that you have to be concerned about, don't get freaked out about like I have done in the past, and even sometimes I still do. The temperature of the meat will climb pretty steady until it gets somewhere around 145. At around 145, it stalls, is the terminology that's used in the smoking world, and the temperature just does not rise, and it will drive you nuts. Is this thing ever going to go? Once it gets past that stall, 145, 150, 135, wherever that is, then the temperature will climb much like it did before you get to that point. Here's another trick that I learned the hard way. I actually, we're outside, all outside outlets have a GFI on them. I actually run an extension cord from this inside the house to an outlet that does not have a GFI on it. What happens is this auger will kick on, And when it kicks on and starts trying to feed pellets into the box, that sometimes will throw the GFI, that sudden jolt of the motor kicking on the auger. Little tip that I do, maybe a disadvantage you might call it to a pellet grill, the fact that it does do that. All right, temperature's up to 215 now, set on 225. It might climb to 235. We're done. Next move will be opening it up, pulling the meat off. I didn't film me taking the meat off the smoker. What I did do was, as I took it off, I wrapped it in foil, I wrapped it in the towel, and then I put it in this cooler. So I will film me taking it out of this cooler to give you an idea of what it looks like a few hours after it come off the grill. It has been off for about 4 or 5 hours now. It should be plenty rested and ready to go. Still super hot. So I took it off about 8 o'clock this morning. I actually can't touch that, it's so hot. So it's been off for about 4 hours now. So we'll open it up, take a look, see what we got here. I pulled it at about 200 degrees. There's another rule of thumb, if you will, that kind of gives you an idea whether it's done or not. I, of course, recommend using a thermometer, but if you don't actually have one, and to further simplify things, one of the ways that you know whether it's done or not is if you can stick your finger in it like that. That's a sure sign it's done. When it comes apart, this is the bark. That's the good stuff. You can grab it and pull it like that. It's actually so hot right now, I can't touch it. So, there you go. We're ready for pulled pork sandwiches. They're gonna be great. All right, here's the final results. Pulled pork, baked beans, sweet potato fries, and some jalapeno poppers. Covered in little Sweet Baby Ray's. Simple, try it.